My name is Devinder Sadana. I worked for a long time, 37 years, in the National Dairy Research Institute in Karnal and also another institute, National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources. These are both ICAR institute, Indian Council of Agricultural Research. Basically, I come from Himachal Pradesh and job working in Karnal, Haryana, and I got retired in 2014. Now it is 6 years. Livestock, as we all know, is a very important part of our life, in fact, because it provides us a lot. Our food, much of it comes from livestock only. And livestock basically means all the species which the farmer keeps, people keep, and get some benefit from, like starts with cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat, camel, horse, and all others, including pigs and poultry. These are important because they contribute a lot, much to the country, and more important, in the present times, we have noted especially that the progress in livestock, the contribution of livestock to the national GDP is much higher than even from agriculture, because the dynamics of livestock are such that these can continue to contribute more in the coming times. So we have great expectations from there too. When we say indigenous breeds, what we mean is the livestock which is native to our country, local in all the different places. If we see our country is definitely a lot many different climates. We call them ecozones, different ecozones in the country. We can broadly think about the states. Each state gives its own kind of ecosystem in terms of climate, in terms of temperature, in terms of the terrain. Coastal region will be different from what Haryana and Punjab or Himachal looks like. Hilly regions, for that matter, are different. So, for each ecosystem, there are different breeds that have developed over time there. And those breeds which are locally developed there are known as native breeds or indigenous breeds. In all the regions in our country, we have the indigenous breeds. We don't have generally the problems of indigenous breeds in many species like buffalo, because buffalo is native to India. India is exporting rather. And there is no problem about indigenous or non-indigenous. But in cattle, it is. In cattle, considering that the milk production from the Indian indigenous breeds is low, the thinking somewhere in 60s, planners thought that take some breed from outside like Jersey, like Holstein Friesian, we call it HF also. These breeds had much higher milk production, definitely. And a process is very simple. You take a Jersey bull and take some cow from the country, and then the next progeny, we call it crossbred, will be producing higher. Scientifically it does. It did. Benefits were there. Milk yield increased, right. But the problems of crossbreeding appeared somewhere in 20 years' time when second and third generation of cows came of crossbreeding. When that happens in second, third, fourth generation, the animals are not able to survive well because they are not adapted to the local conditions. Local conditions like high temperature or high rainfall, or even the opposite of that. There is no rains for even 2-3 years. In that situation, and the kind of feed fodder which we can provide to our animals, that also happens to be not of very high quality, not in sufficient volume. That we all know. Basically, the reason is somewhere else. Our increasing human population has taken up all the lands which were used for even cultivating fodder. That being taken off, number one. Number two, there used to be many grasslands and common lands. all these, much of it was really taken away for urbanization, for buildings, for other activities, and animals, there was no place left for them to go and graze. So for that reason, the production of the indigenous breeds also was less. And they are adapted because they have developed here and they have been facing the climate situations. In fact, let me say, tough climatic situations. When it is hot, like in Rajasthan, look at the situation. The animal in that 45 degrees Celsius is still standing and easily enjoying the times that we see. When we human beings go there with something like an umbrella, we cannot just face the sun, cannot stand in the sun. Animal is standing very comfortably. That kind of quality of the animal, animal is having the genes, genetic makeup, and that develops only in centuries, and that is what the indigenous breeds are, and that's why those are important, and we cannot afford to lose them. A crossbred not being adapted will not be able to survive in the 4th or 5th generation, and production only in the first crossbred generation or maximum at the second, you do get a higher amount of milk. But by 4th generation, we see the production of the crossbred is either same as the native breed or even less, and the animal needs a lot of medicines, lot of support, lot of cooling, lot of water, and those are the problems. The management problems also do come with that. And for that reason, the native breeds are important. That's why we say indigenous breeds are definitely very important. The issue of doubling farmers' income is very much pertinent in our mind. And we just see to it that it's a, in fact, question which is being faced and arguments are coming up. What people generally think, native breeds produce less in terms of milk or meat, and hence these are not able to meet the country's current day requirement of doubling the farmer's income. But we are just talking about milk from cattle. We are not thinking about the other services that cattle are providing. It's a big mistake to just think that cattle are milk machines. That is the general thinking. In fact, when we talk about cattle, the first idea next that comes is milk, nothing else. Whereas that nothing else is in fact a wrong signal, which I must emphasize today, that there are many things that are coming. Broadly, let me say that it is the environmental services that our indigenous breeds are providing. Look at the natural farming which is now growing. Higher production with much less yield, and that is feasible when you have the native cattle dung and urine in the fields, not as just a source of fertilizer, which still is a misnomer in our country, that the dung cannot provide that much of nutrients. The important point is cattle dung and urine provide an inoculum, something like it promotes the living organisms in soil. Much of that living organisms has been spoiled by the use of fertilizers and pesticides, and the number is less, number has reduced. That reduction in number can be compensated broadly by the use of indigenous local breeds. Why it doesn't come from the exotic breeds which give more milk? The reason is, if we look at just 1 gram of dung from cattle of Indian and exotic breeds, it is 60 times more good quality bacteria in the indigenous cow breed dung. This something is really super. I just need 1 cow instead of 50 cows to get the same number of bacteria in my soil. And the bacteria are necessary in the soil. Why? Soil generally has all the things which the plant needs. It's normally very true. Soil and the surrounding air has everything. Moisture, you see, air has 5 times more than soil. If you look at nitrogen, see, it's there a lot in the air. And all this has to go to soil. Now, soil has the nutrients, but the problem is when the life in the soil is spoiled, whatever reasons, including the fertilizers and pesticides, when the life in the soil is spoiled, then the conversion of those raw materials in the soil doesn't happen. When that doesn't happen, then the plant rootlets are not able to absorb easily what the plant requires. Now, very simple but very important point that indigenous breeds, their dung, because the alimentary canal, the digestive system in indigenous breeds is much longer. And what happens? There are now 30-40 different kind of bacteria that have been identified, which are present in the indigenous cows. Several places, several studies, superb results, that those are the bacteria which are specifically found in so and so breeds, indigenous breeds broadly, yes. And those bacteria are doing wonders in the soil. Soil is a living organism. Life in soil is important. That much of it we ignored, much of it has been damaged by virtue of those using the items which are not really good for the soil, thinking that, what the thinking was, soil is just a storehouse of nutrients. Okay, it's a store of nutrients for the plants. But that was the only thinking which went. Not that there is some system which is building that storehouse in a form which is acceptable to the plants. The roots, rootlets, what is acceptable to them is more important. And that kind of items are made by those bacteria, fungi, and all the living organisms which are there. And that inoculum comes from the cow. Interestingly, some studies have shown that even one cow is sufficient for 30 acres of land in terms of the inoculum that is needed for making the soil much better, much more easily available. In rain-fed systems, we have in the country almost half the country just rain-fed. There are no assured irrigations possible, feasible. In all these areas, we have seen that how cattle, in terms of their outputs, other than milk, can contribute very positively. Important point is that the areas which don't have water can do better if the cattle are there, because these will rebuild the soil. Wherever we have the problems, we have seen areas which are not producing even any grass, what to say about trees or bushes. When a cow is made to stand there in a few months' time, the area starts producing grasses, and slowly even one can produce vegetables and other things in the area which was all dry. Huge many experiments, Varanasi and many other places, where it was actually seen. And once the cow was there, a few cows were kept, then even the water became much more easily available in the area. And some people who had left those regions because of this kind of shortage of water and problems, they had gone to the cities, they came back. Now, why it happens? It happens because when the cow in dry areas made to survive initially, provide some water to begin with. After that, it will be soil that will take care of all these water holding, keeping capacities to continue with. In the rain-fed system, what we see when the water is not there, the contribution from livestock is much more intense than cattle contributing in the irrigated areas. In the irrigated areas, where we can put up industries, we can put large number of scaled up livestock, and we do get more milk also, and that's really wonderful. Some of the breeds like Sahiwal in Punjab, for example, Maharashtra also. But in the dry areas, the breeds which are not very high producing are sufficiently okay. Because very high producing breeds will require much higher amounts of water and fodder, etc., which it's very difficult to afford in these areas. But if you look at the local breeds, which eat less and still produce sufficiently good amount, if not fully equal to the rain-fed areas, but still sufficiently good, input-output ratio is much better. At the network, we are working for the rain-fed areas as a wholesome system, as a total ecosystem. We don't think about providing things, but what we think about is that the system, the place, the region, the field even should be strong enough that it can generate and regenerate. And that is feasible when we consider all the aspects. Animal and agriculture, field crops have to go together. Whatever is coming from the animals goes to the field, to the crop to make it better. Whatever comes possibly from the crop, maybe remains remnants of the grains, goes to cattle, and that is sufficient. That cycle has to continue. At the network, we are rebuilding this thinking that cycle really comes up in a much stronger way with good demonstrations. And in that respect, because dryland areas also have a good number of sheep, so our attention is in all those livestock so that these produce at a much higher level. Efficiency being more, we can be more confident of being able to contribute in terms of even doubling the farmer's income when we think about these methods and these issues which are so necessary for our dryland areas. Bunny buffalo is one very good example in the country where in the dryland areas of Gujarat, the Kutch area, the animals which were there about 10 years ago, when this system was being examined, what was noted was that bunny as a name didn't exist. These were just animals that they used to call it desi animals, and many experts just said that these are only the famous Murrah type and nothing else. So in that scene, these scientific studies showed that this is not same as Murrah. This has to be seen at the molecular level, at the gene level, in terms of their production system. At that aspect, what was interesting was, in spite of shortage of water, in fact, let me say lack of water, these animals were able to produce 9.5 liters of milk a day. We were wondering, that much of milk definitely needs a lot of water to pass through the animal but where that much water comes, we were wondering. And our teams really went into those areas to see that what kind of grasses these animals are getting. Their system was fully examined, that they are taken to the nearby jungle only after about 6 o'clock, and then the animals will go there and they will start coming back at about 2 a.m. in the morning. Interestingly, that is the only thing they are eating there in terms of water. And the thorny bushes, that is the source of water for them. Wonderful thing is that what kind of genes this animal has, definitely different from the genes which are there in any other animals. That in that kind of tough situation, still the animal is producing 9.5 liters a day in that kind of situation. That is why bunny as an example in the country has come up. In 2010, it was registered as a new breed, different from all other breeds. From Murrah also different, and also from the nearby breeds like Mehsana or Surti. It proved to be a different breed. Now, when we talk about bunny, important point is, Bunny as an example, okay, but Bunny has expressed that our local breeds, even if they are not, they do not look to be very different, they do not look to be very special, they do not look to be very high producing, but they have the capacity to survive, to produce even if little less, and be able to produce in very tough situations of even 3-4 years of continuous drought. So that's why Bunny has been brought up more. It has been highlighted a lot much, and that's very important also for that. And just like Bunny, 16 years ago was not known to be there because it was not a name. 2004 it was started to be examined by the institution system in our country and BAGR and all. And by 2010, in 6 years time, the entire studies, comparisons showed that it's a different and unique breed. Like that, there are many other unique populations today which are worthy of being called as breeds, but before that, those unique populations are locally very much adjusted, can contribute, and if they are used, they can help in increasing the farmers' income there, because so far attention has not gone into that attention needs to go. We can see that using dung, many items can be produced, even soaps can be brought up from camel poo, even paper can be made. The camel milk is so much in use for controlling diabetes and being transported to about 100 miles, 200 miles these days. Even for the autistic children, the milk from camel is providing support and succor. Now, those aspects that looking at all the products which are possible also need to be worked much more on, and RRA as a team are in this respect doing a lot much, and several other groups also we are happy in the country are working on producing different kinds of products from livestock, as well as the increasing the value chain. The value addition is happening in a much better way. But this is what we at RRA also are attempting to support in a bigger way.